If you are an adult, maybe you already know by now that nothing and no one is perfect. We've all been disappointed by people or things, and we also disappoint others, willingly or unwillingly. But the Bible talks about something that is perfect. Let's go to 1 John chapter 4 verse 18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. Because fear involves torment, but he who fears has not been made perfect in love. Beloved, fear not or do not be afraid is the most repeated command in the Bible. There are over 300 verses that include fear not or do not be afraid. And this repetition implies importance. Abraham needed to hear these words, even Joshua, David, and Paul. And we also need to hear these words, do not be afraid. And sometimes we say it's easier said than done, especially when we're going through something. Fear torments. It can be debilitating. Fear can be paralyzing. But God has an antidote to fear. Perfect love casts out fear. The Amplified Version puts it like this. There is no fear in love. Dread does not exist. But perfect, complete, full-grown love drives out fear, because fear involves the expectation of divine punishment. So the one who is afraid of God's judgment is not perfected in love, has not grown into a sufficient understanding of God's love. When I was a young Christian, I used to think that this passage is talking about my love for God. That's why I was always striving, doing it on my own flesh, and then failing again and again. I was trying to cast out my own fear by my own love, which is so inadequate. And then I learned that the perfect love that this passage is talking about is God's love. God's love for me. It is God's love that can remove fear in my life. The enemy may have given you these lies to tell you that God is mad at you and is giving you a picture of God whose finger is always pointing at you, constantly accusing you and telling you that you are not good enough. Beloved, God's perfect love is the most powerful force in this universe. He is reminding us over and over again to not be afraid. And it's not an empty command. He is also offering the solution to fear, which is His love, His perfect love. And when you get a revelation of God's love, which is not based on our performance, all the fears, the worries, the doubts, the dread, the distress, and everything that comes with fear will melt away. He doesn't want you to look on the inside, but instead, He wants you to focus on Jesus. And when you meditate on how Jesus gave His life for you and how He willingly suffered so that we may be translated from the kingdom of darkness to light, this love will even empower you to stand up, to wake up, to step out, and reach for those dreams that you never knew you could imagine or achieve. Go to those verses that talk about God's love for you and I. Study them until they reach the meditation level of your heart. For God so loved me that He gave His Son for me. He who did not spare His own Son, but delivered Him up for me, how shall He not along with Him freely give me all things? He is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that I could think or imagine. I am more than a conqueror through Him who loves me. Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet His unfailing love for me will not be shaken. These are just some of the verses that you can meditate on. And let the love of God drive out fear in your life. Praise God. We'll see you again tomorrow.